can see I lose my step. It's my time again. I can see I can see I can see there's a heaven there. I can
Can't put in the words all that he's done for us. In Matthew it says that at that time Jesus went through the grain fields on the Sabbath, and his disciples became hungry and began to pick the heads of grain and eat. But when the Pharisees saw this, they said to him, "Look, your disciples do what is not lawful to do on the Sabbath." But he said to them, "Have you not read what David did when he became hungry, he and his companions, how he entered the house of God, and they ate the consecrated bread, which was not lawful for him to eat, nor for those with him, but for the priest alone? Or have you not read in the law that on the Sabbath the priests in the temple break the Sabbath and are innocent? But I say to you that something greater than the temple is here. But if you had known what that means, I desire compassion and not sacrifice, you would not have condemned the innocent, for the Son of Man is Lord of the Sabbath." You're more than we can offer, or you're more than we could ask for, Lord. And all that you require from us is not necessarily a sacrifice. All that you require from us is just us. And this morning as we sang, God, it's just, how can we not be overwhelmed by your love? How can we not be consumed with the very being of who you are and let that just permeate throughout our lives? I know we're at different crossroads in our lives and we have many things that stress us out, but you are the only thing that our focus should be on. As we sang, whether it's times of joy or in darkness, God, you are there. Whether it's a beautiful, gorgeous day like today, God, or 20 below zero, you are there. So this morning, as we continue to worship and fellowship, we hear from Pastor and the kids go back, I ask, God, that you challenge each and every one of us. Whatever it is that we have decided to keep on our minds this morning, I pray that you would help us to focus on you. That whatever the pastor brings us through you, that recognize that it's not just for our neighbor, but it's for us. So this morning, Lord, as we're together, I pray that we can come together as a family of believers, that we come together and just worship you. We love you, and we thank you for all that you've done for us. In your precious name we pray. Amen. Take the time to say hello and get some coffee, and we'll be back. Well, good morning, everybody. Okay, we have a lot of announcements, but the first thing I want to say is, do you all notice the nice announcements on the screen? Jim and David are doing a really nice job with those, so if you're not listening to the announcements, at least maybe you can read them beforehand, right? Okay, so next Sunday is going to be the second Sunday, right? It's also Palm Sunday, but we're going to have Fellowship Sunday lunch afterwards, so make sure you bring a special dish to share. There is Good Friday service sign-ups in the back. So what we're going to do is something sort of similar to what we've done in the past, where you sign up for a slot time. We're going to do 6, 6:30, 7, 7:30, 8 o'clock. And you're going to sign up. There's 12 spots in each. So I think 6 o'clock is getting filled up pretty quick. So if you want that time slot or 6:30, make sure you put your name on there. That date is Friday, April 19th. It's going to be pretty powerful, so I hope you can come. Easter Sunday, so the following Sunday, the Hillman Small Group is going to sponsor breakfast at 10, so you don't need to bring anything. We just hope you show up. It's at 10. There'll be biscuits and gravy and pancakes. Again, we just hope we see you. Just come, and then followed by Easter Sunday service. The ladies' prayer brunch is Saturday, April 27th at 11 a.m. And then the last Monday of the month is going to be what's called Moving Forward After Tragedy. So it's going to be 6 to 9. It's going to be a night of worship and a testimony from, I don't know if you remember, the couple that was up here about a week or so ago, Kip and Michelle. They're going to be sharing their testimony of losing their daughter at 23 years of age. And of course, on Wednesday. I'm glad that you're here with us this morning. If you have a Bible, you can turn to Luke chapter 6, continuing our studies in the book of Luke, but specifically our studies in Jesus as teacher and healer, and we're honing in on his teaching for a while. Real quick, too, just as a way to help you understand, we have transferred over new computer, and so we have new things that we're trying to learn in that. And this morning, I failed to get the songs in quite right, and so I told the boys everything was the way it should be. And then when they started clicking into songs, it wasn't the way it should be. And so we're still working on that. We're still getting things in, so I apologize for that, but hopefully it'll be more seamless and more flawless as we move forward. All right? So Luke chapter 6. I'm going to read verses 1 through 11 this morning, but we're only going to focus on verses 1 through 5. However, we may dip into verses 6 through 11, but we're going to save that for a later time because that's talking about a healing. So let me go ahead and read Luke chapter 6, verses 1 through 11, and then we'll try to make some sense out of what is being said here. Now it happened that when he was passing through some grain fields on the Sabbath, and his disciples were picking the heads of grain, rubbing them in their hands, and eating the grain. But some of the Pharisees said, "Why do you do what is not lawful on the Sabbath?" And Jesus answering them said, "Have you not even read when David what David did when he was hungry, he and those who were with him, how he entered the house of God and took and ate the consecrated bread, which is not lawful for any to eat, except the priests alone, and gave it to his companions. And he was saying to them, the Son of Man is Lord of the Sabbath." So on another Sabbath he entered the synagogue and was teaching, and there was a man there whose right hand was withered. And the scribes and the Pharisees were watching him closely to see if he healed on the Sabbath, so that they might find reason to accuse him. But he knew what they were thinking. And he said to the man with the withered hand, "Get up and come forward." And he got up and came forward. And Jesus said to them, "I ask you, is it lawful to do good or to do harm on the Sabbath, to save a life or to destroy it?" After looking around at them all, he said to him, "Stretch out your hand." And he did so, and his hand was restored. But they themselves were filled with rage and discussed together what they might do to Jesus. Now, growing up, I was raised in a home where my mom and dad always took us to church on Sunday. And after church, we would come home, and I can remember, especially in the summertime, there was always food in the oven, so you could smell it when you get in the house or into the driveway. You could smell the food. She always had food cooking. You go in, open up the windows, a nice breeze would come through, and we would eat dinner, and then we would just hang out the rest of the day. Sometimes I'd go outside and find some friends, and we'd play ball or do something. But growing up, even though it was not a Christian home, we went to church every Sunday, but I wasn't raised in a Christian home. My mom and dad didn't necessarily teach us bad values, but they didn't teach us to follow Jesus as the most central thing in our life. However, we didn't go anywhere on Sundays. We didn't buy anything. We didn't sell anything. And we didn't do any kind of extra work on Sundays. And so that's how I was raised. But then I came to know Jesus, and I started following Jesus, and I started reading Jesus' teachings in the Bible, and I got really confused. And the reason I got really confused is because there are these sides of the camp that say, well, even though that was Old Testament, keep the Sabbath day holy, now when you come into the New Testament, we don't have, Paul says, we don't count any day as different than another. It's all the same. So you don't have to worry about not doing any work. I mean, you can do whatever you want on any day of the week. And then there was people on the other side of the camp that would say, well, even though that's true, the Old Testament still has very wise principles, and our bodies do need rest, and you should take a Sabbath, and you should make sure that you go and you worship God on the Sabbath, and you should do all these things. And so the more and more I read the scriptures, I'm thinking, well, what's this whole Sabbath thing about? And over the years, I've come to some new conclusions, but I don't know that I ever grappled with it, and I don't know that I ever gained the insight that I gained this past week, that God showed me this past week. And so I want to talk this week about how to live in a Sabbath and not for a Sabbath. Because I think that's what Jesus was talking about here, how to live in a Sabbath and not for a Sabbath. So the first thing we want to look at is, what is a Sabbath? And when you start to think about what is a Sabbath, you look here at Luke chapter 6, and you see that Jesus and his disciples were passing through the grain fields. All right? Now, as they're passing through the grain fields on a Sabbath, it's specific here, Luke's specific, it's on a Sabbath, the disciples were hungry, according to Matthew chapter 12, verse 1. Same story. And this is an important story because Matthew and Mark and Luke, all three describe the same story. Little different details, but Luke is specific in some areas where Matthew and Mark are specific in others. And Matthew chapter 12, verse 1 tells us that they were hungry. So they're going to the grain fields, and Luke is specific here. Luke says that they were picking grain, they were rubbing it in their hands, and they were eating it. Now that's going to come up later, so keep that in mind of what they were doing, because we're going to see how that relates to this whole thing. So after they do this, now the Pharisees see them doing this in the grain fields, and the Pharisees object, and they say, why do you do what is not lawful on the Sabbath? Meaning, why are you doing something that you're not supposed to be doing on the Sabbath? Because God said you shouldn't be picking grain and rubbing it and eating it on the Sabbath, didn't he? Well, if you go back to your Bible, it's not in there, but we'll see where they came to that conclusion. So that's where they're at. So what is the Sabbath? Well, the Sabbath goes all the way back to Genesis chapter 2, verses 1 through 3. And you have this story of the heavens and the earth were completed by God. He made everything. After he created everything, what does it say that he did on the seventh day? Anybody? He rested, right. It's twice in here, in verses 1 through 3, it's twice. When you get to the end there, after he had blessed the seventh day and he sanctified it, those are key terms too. But again, it says, because in it he rested from all of his work which God had created and made. Now the word rested here is a Hebrew word which means seated or dwelling. Now think about this for a second. It means seated or dwelling. So here is God. He's done with all of his work, and he sits down and begins to dwell somewhere. He's done with all of his work, and he sits down. Where might you think he would sit? Anybody? On his throne. And it doesn't say that here, but that's what I'm thinking of. So he's resting. He sits, and now he's dwelling. But what's he doing while he's dwelling? Is he just hanging out, watching YouTube videos, and having cake and ice cream? Resting? Is that what he's doing? Well, we'll find out, but this is the whole idea of Sabbath. He rested. Now, it also says there that when he rested from his work, the reason he rested from his work is because he blessed the Sabbath day. That word for blessed means to kneel down or to adore with bended knee. So now you look at this. Now God is done creating everything in Genesis chapter 2, verse 1 through 3. He sits down on his throne, and he's dwelling there. And what's he doing? He's adoring everything that he has created. And the way he's adoring that, and it doesn't say this here, but I've got a thought here. And one of the ways he's adoring that is he's serving that creation by taking care of that creation. And we'll talk more about that as we move through this. It also says that he sanctified that day, which means he set it apart. And why did he set it apart? Well, because he rested. Or because he took his throne now, and now it's set apart because now all that is done is he's just adoring it. It's all done. All the work's been done. He's just adoring it now. Now, if you go to Exodus chapter 20, verses 8 through 11, it says, remember the Sabbath day. This is where now, finally, God is coming to Israel. Israel comes together as a group of people. Moses brings them out of the land of Egypt, and now that they're out of the land of Egypt, God's pretty much got to lead them and show them what they're supposed to be doing so that they can get an idea of who this God that they're supposed to be serving is. And so one of the ways he does that is he gives them the Ten Commandments, but in the Ten Commandments, he tells them about the Sabbath day. And let me tell you something. In the Ten Commandments, this section on the Sabbath is the longest part of those Ten Commandments because he has to kind of explain it. Now look at how he explains it. Remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath what? Of the Lord your God. It's a Sabbath of the Lord your God. In it you shall not do any work. You, so not just you, but listen, you, your son or your daughter. So when I went outside and played ball, maybe I shouldn't have been doing that according to some people. Because I remember sometimes my dad would even say something, well, I don't know, you should be out doing all that on Sunday. And we weren't even in a Christian home, but it was just how you were raised. You didn't do that kind of stuff. And I understand some of the older schools of thought, you did nothing on the Sabbath. All right? Your daughter is not supposed to do anything. Your male or your female servant, which is why you wouldn't want to go out to eat on a Sunday, because you wouldn't want to make people serve you. Right? That's where that came from. Because you don't want to make your other servants work. Your cattle and your sojourner. Sojourner would be somebody that came through and they stayed with you, and so there they are staying with you, and just because they're staying with you doesn't mean you take advantage of them and make them work for you on your behalf. No, nobody works. Not even your animals work. For 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth and the sea and all that is in them, and rested on the seventh day. What does it mean to rest again for God? Well, yeah, adore is that context of he blessed it, but to rest is actually he seated himself. He took his dwelling place. But yeah, you're on the right track. So he takes his dwelling place and he's adoring it. So it says for 6 days he made it, and then it says he rested on the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day. There's that adored, and the Sabbath day, and made it holy or sanctified it, which is in Genesis, set it apart. Now, go to Deuteronomy chapter 5, verses 12 through 15, and specifically in verse 15. This is God's thing. He's trying to tell them about bringing them out of Egypt, and here's what he says. You shall remember that you were a slave in the land of Egypt. And the Lord your God brought you out of there by a mighty hand and an outstretched arm. Therefore, the Lord your God commanded you to what? Observe the Sabbath. So now in Deuteronomy he says, the reason God told you to observe the Sabbath is because you were a slave in Egypt. And because now he brought you out with what? How did he bring you out? A mighty hand and an outstretched arm. What's that mean? It means he brought them out by his power and his power alone. So he's seated on his throne resting, but while he's resting, what's he doing? He's delivering them from their slavery and their bondage, and he's bringing them out. And because he brought them out, he says, now I want you to observe what? The Sabbath. Observe the fact that God is seated on his throne, and he's adoring you. And part of his adoration for you is he wants to bring you out of slavery and bring you into the freedom of his goodwill. Now, with that said, I want to clear up a few things concerning Sabbath. Sabbath was probably observed as far back as Genesis chapter 4. And the reason I say that is because if you remember the story of Genesis chapter 4, it's the story of Cain and Abel. And Cain and Abel are bringing sacrifices to the Lord. And in bringing these sacrifices, it says that they brought the sacrifices, listen, in a course of time. And in that phrase, in a course of time, the idea is there, some scholars believe that that's referring to a particular day, which would be a Sabbath day. So just work with me here, okay? So Cain and Abel are bringing sacrifices to the Lord. And the Lord is teaching them how to worship him. And how's he teaching them to worship him? Well, he's teaching them to bring their first fruits so that they can trust that he will take care of everything else. And the way we know that is because Cain comes and Abel comes and he says he accepted Abel's sacrifice, but he did not accept Cain's. And he tells Cain, he says, Cain, why are you so downcast? If you do what is right, won't you be accepted? So the idea is God was teaching them, you bring me your first fruits, which is a form of trust. And when you bring me the first of your fruits, you can trust now that I am going to make that other part of everything else that you have, it's going to be blessed, and it's going to do everything you need it to do. And so God was teaching them how to trust him. God was not teaching them how to make sacrifices or bring sacrifices. I mean, that was part of it, but ultimately he was teaching them how to trust him. That's what the whole tithe thing is about. You give back to God in trust that God will always take care of you. It's not because God needs your money. God does not need our money. He doesn't need it at all. Right, Doug? You learned that last week. God does not need your money. So, you can trust God. So, it started all the way back in Genesis chapter 4. However, as you move forward, you see that according to the Hebrew calendar, the Sabbath became a set of days, technically one day, but it would start on Friday at sundown, and it would go through Saturday to sundown on Saturday. That would be your Sabbath. That's one of the reasons why they had to get Jesus off the cross, which is why they had to break his legs, because, they had to break the other people's legs because they had to get him down for Sabbath. They came to Jesus, they didn't have to break his legs because he's already dead, which is a fulfillment of prophecy. If you go back to Isaiah, none of his bones were broken. So the idea here is that they had to get him on the cross for Sabbath because you couldn't have anybody on the cross on the Sabbath. So they brought him down Friday before sundown. They get him in the tomb. He's in the tomb on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday he resurrects. So the idea is that the Sabbath then became a day, and it was on Friday evening into Saturday evening. So guess what? You all are breaking the Sabbath. Every single one of you, according to the Hebrew calendar. Because you're here today worshiping and having your Sabbath rest here on Sunday. So now some of you may be saying, well, why are we doing this, Brian? Should we become Seventh-day Adventists? No. You don't want to become a Seventh-day Adventist. I mean, I guess if you want to, it's up to you. I wouldn't advise it, but I don't think you should. Or should we become Jewish? Should we accept all the Jewish laws? Should we have some kind of Judaism teaching and learn how to celebrate the Sabbath? No. We don't have to do that. The Sabbath then was instilled by early Christians because they decided, let's worship Jesus on the day that he was resurrected, which would have been the first day of the week, which would have been Sunday. And so that's where the idea of worshiping on Sunday came. And that's why then later on, as you did that, then the Christians started to go, well, maybe a certain portion of Christians said, well, maybe we shouldn't do any work. And then all of a sudden this Judaism thing started coming to Sundays, and then all of a sudden you had, I don't remember this, but people tell me that there was these things called blue laws, that businesses couldn't open and you couldn't buy and sell. And even today, the Amish community around here, they don't buy and sell on Sunday. I mean, if anybody wants to tell them that technically Sunday is not the Sabbath, you could, never mind, you don't want to relay that to them. Anyway, they don't buy or sell on Sunday. So you look at all this stuff and you get all this stuff kind of cleared up and you see that, well, what is the Sabbath then? Well, I haven't cleared hardly anything up for you. I mean, I said, let's clear a few things up, but I haven't cleared anything up for you. Here's the truth. Mark chapter 2, verse 27. The Sabbath was made for man, not man, for the Sabbath. So Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. So the fact that God took a day and blessed it and set it apart was so that man might adore the God who is seated, adoring his creation. That's why he created it, so that you and I might get a glimpse and an understanding of who this great God is. So we have a little bit better idea of what Sabbath is. Sabbath is, let me see if I have a thought up here? No, I'll get there in just a second. So with that said, so what was work on the Sabbath then? If we're going to take this to its final conclusion, what was work on the Sabbath? Well, Exodus 31, verses 12 through 17 explains that if you profane the Sabbath or did certain types of work on the Sabbath, you would be stoned to death, according to Exodus 31. That's how important the Sabbath was. So don't you think for a second that it wasn't important that you listen to God and do what he's asked you to do. So I'm not trying to belittle the Sabbath, but here's what I want to get to. If you profaned it and you died on the Sabbath, Exodus 31, 12 through 17 says that the reason why you would do this is because God worked 6 days and then on the 7th day he was refreshed. That's a different word now. Now think about this. Go back to Genesis. He rested, blessed. Now all of a sudden in Exodus 31, it says he was refreshed. This is what's interesting. This word for refreshed here is a Hebrew word which means to breathe or to be breathed upon. So what's happening is now God takes his seat. He's adoring, but what's he doing while he's taking his seat and he's adoring? He is breathing upon creation. He's breathing. If you go back, and the whole idea of his breath is life. He is breathing life into everything that he's created. Now you take that a little bit further and you think about this, okay, God creates everything and he breathes, and then you walk into Colossians chapter 1, verses 15 through 17, but specifically in verse 17, and it says there in verse 17 that he, meaning Jesus, who created all things, it says he is before all things, and in him all things hold together. If you want another word for that, that's called gravity. So, here's Jesus. He's seated on the throne. He is resting. He's seated. He blessed the day. He's adoring it. And now he is breathing upon it, meaning that he is holding everything together. Now you tell me, how does that look like what we call rest? That's work, right? I mean, he's doing this. He's doing something. He's just, so, when we get to this, all right, so here you are, you're looking at this, okay? Now, if you go to Exodus 34 there. Exodus 34, now look. You shall work 6 days, but on the 7th day you shall rest. And then you shouldn't even during plowing time and harvest time. Now, when you look at that, does it say you shouldn't plow or shouldn't harvest? It says, even during plowing time and harvest you shall rest. Right? So the idea here is that this law that God gave to his people was never to be a law that they had to do X, Y, and Z in order to please God. This law was to show the people that even during plowing time and harvest time, if they recognized that God was seated on his throne and he was overseeing this and he was breathing life into this and he was holding your life together, that you could trust him even during plowing time and harvest time if you couldn't get out to plow the day you thought, or if you couldn't get out to harvest the day you thought. You could trust him for that. So if you've been praying about something and you think, and this has to be done right now, and it can't be done right now, you don't have to worry. You can totally let that go because you can trust that God's got this thing in control. You don't have to be concerned about it. And listen, that's the difference in living in Sabbath instead of living for a Sabbath. Because Sabbath isn't about a day. It's not even about worship. Because if you just worship on the Sabbath, that's not good. That's not right. That's not right. Seriously, if the only time you worship God is on a Sabbath, and then, listen, y'all get it wrong anyway because it's not Sunday. It's Friday night into Saturday. So now you're double messed up. Now you come to church on Sunday to worship on a Sabbath and it's not even a Sabbath. So what is a Sabbath then? Maybe we can just do this. Sabbath is a rest for the people of God to trust that he is in control. That's what a Sabbath is. Sabbath is a rest for the people of God to trust that he's in control. That means tomorrow you can live in Sabbath. That means Wednesday, when you don't come to prayer, you can live in Sabbath. That's just a little. All right. So you can still live in Sabbath even though you don't come to prayer. I believe that. I'd like for you to come to prayer, but I believe you could still rest in Sabbath if you don't. So Sabbath is a rest for God's people so that they can trust that he's in control. Now, once we've done that, then you might say to yourself, well, Brian, you said that it's how can you live in a Sabbath instead of for a Sabbath? Well, hopefully I'm going to show you in just a second. So how do I live in a Sabbath and not for a Sabbath? Well, here's how you do that. Always do good because Jesus is always doing good. So here's God seated on his throne. Jesus is seated on the throne with God. He's at his right hand, but technically he's seated on the throne, which is the throne of God. You can read that in Revelation and try to figure it out for yourself. And then you can even try to figure this out, that once we inherit the kingdom, we will sit on Jesus' throne, which is on God's throne. So we all sit on one big throne. But you can figure all that out. So here he is. He's seated on his throne, Jesus, and he is always doing good. Meaning he's seated on his throne, he's breathing life into all of creation, and he's holding it all together with what? His goodness, his love, his compassion. So let me try to show you this. So Jesus is going through, and as he's going through the grain fields, they ask this question, why they do what's lawful, and Jesus pulls out this story from the Old Testament. And he says, listen, David's fleeing from Saul. He comes to Ahimelech, the priest, and he says, listen, me and my soldiers, my companions, we don't have any food to eat. Do you have some food for us? And the priest says, all I got is the bread of the presence, or the consecrated bread that goes into the tabernacle. And David's like, well, we're hungry. And so the priest decides, okay, as long as your men, have any of your men been with women lately? Because I don't think it would be right if they would eat consecrated bread. This consecrated bread is actually only supposed to be for the priests. The priests aren't supposed to be with any women and all that kind of stuff. So had they not been with anyone, it's really strange, but he asked that question. He says, has your men been with any women? And David says, no, we've been way too busy to worry about women. So they've been running from Saul. And so he says, okay, fine, then I'll give you the bread. We'll replace it with warm bread the way it's supposed to be done, and I'll give you that bread. And so Jesus uses this story, and he says, David didn't get in trouble when he ate the bread of the presence, which is only for the priests. Because, see, the law about the bread being only for the priest was a law for them to follow, but never a law that would never recognize what is good and best for the people. Does that make sense? So here you've got David and his companions, and they're hungry, and they're on the run from Saul, and there's no other bread. Now, if there was Schwabels in the fridge, and they decided they were going to eat the bread of the presence instead of Schwabels, then God may have had a problem. But this is what was best for David and his men. They were hungry. They needed food. So God says, well then, yeah, but don't worry about that law. You go ahead and get that bread and eat. Right? So here's what the disciples, they're coming through, and what's going on with the disciples? It says in Matthew chapter 12 what? They were hungry. And listen, when people were hungry back then isn't like when you and I are hungry. No, they were seriously hungry. Because you got stories of when 5,000 people, that's just the men, not to mention their wives and children, were following Jesus, and they didn't have anything to eat like all day. And the disciples say, send them away so they can get something to eat. And Jesus says, no, you feed them. And then he multiplies the bread and the fish and feeds all of them. Because, see, when they were hungry, they were really hungry. So this is a necessity. But then you can still turn this into a law, because then you'll go, well, is it a necessity that I go out to eat today? It is the Sabbath. No, it's really not the Sabbath. This is Sunday. So yesterday was the Sabbath. But if you want to play this right, don't go out to eat on Friday night. If you go out to eat before sun goes down on Friday, you're good. But if you go out to eat after sun goes down, then you'll turn that all into a law. And remember, this is not about a law. It's about resting in the trust that God is in control. And that's 7 days a week, right? Okay, so you live in the Sabbath by always doing good, because that's what Jesus did. And Jesus is saying, listen, God is not about keeping the law just to keep the law. He's about doing good to people, and that's why he fed David. And that's why I said, that's why I said my disciples could eat grain, even though it's a Sabbath. Now, this is what really ticks the Pharisees off. Because Jesus uses a phrase that most people don't hear, and it's the phrase Son of Man. And he says to them, don't you know that the Son of Man is what? Lord of the Sabbath. Now, who's the Son of Man? Well, Jesus is saying, I'm the Son of Man. What does that mean? Well, Son of Man actually means that he's human. That's an easy definition. He's a Son of Man. He's human. He was born in flesh. Now, you also hear him call himself the Son of God. What does that mean? Well, it also means that he's God. So he's got two titles, but he uses them both. But here specifically, he says Son of Man. And one of the reasons for that is because if you go back to Daniel chapter 7, Son of Man is not only saying that he's human, but it's saying that he is divine. He is the Messiah. You go back and read Daniel chapter 7, you'll see it. The Son of Man comes to the Ancient of Days. And so the Son of Man is Messiah. So he clearly is saying to them, listen, I gave my disciples permission. Just like God was okay with giving David permission to eat the bread. So here's the deal. You get permission on any day of the week that God says, hey, you can do this, do it. But if you're on, like, say, Monday and God says, don't do this, don't do it. But listen, God doesn't tell you not to do something because somebody made up a bunch of rules. Okay? But like if I'm going on Monday, right, and I'm really stressed out on Monday, and God says, why don't you slow down and take a break for a few hours? I would say do it. Because what's God doing? He's telling you in your spirit to rest so that you can trust that he's seated on the throne, that he's got this thing in control, he's breathing life into it, he's got it all in control, and he'll take care of it. So you can live in a Sabbath all the time. Not just 7 days a week, but 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. All right? Now, I'm going to try to speed this up. I just got a few more scripture texts to share with you, so we'll be out of here in just a minute. But I want to run through this as I run through this, okay? How do I live in a Sabbath? Let's just keep walking down here. This gets really good here, okay? Luke chapter 5, verses 6 through 11. You have a man who is diseased, right? We read this morning. So you have a man who's diseased, and what was Jesus' question? Jesus asks a question. And what's the question here? He doesn't even wait for the Pharisees to go, wait a minute, you're gonna heal somebody on the Sabbath? You can't do that. And by the way, the reason the Pharisees were upset, and this is where it gets really messed up. The Pharisees and the scribes had made what they considered 39 categories of what constituted work on the Sabbath. And so in those 39 categories, you had plowing and harvesting and wrapping and sewing, and you had, like, you could only write so many letters of the alphabet, and how far you could spit on the Sabbath, and how far you could walk on the Sabbath, all these things, right? So 39 categories, and so listen, here's why Luke is very specific. Luke says that listen, they were picking the grain, so what were they doing? The Pharisees are standing there going, isn't that harvesting? Aren't they harvesting? Wouldn't you call that, hey, Pharisee brothers, come in. Wouldn't you call that harvesting? Yeah, that's definitely harvesting. They're breaking the Sabbath, aren't they? So they're harvesting. Now they're rubbing it in their hands because you take wheat, you rub it, you get rid of the chaff, and you get the wheat berries, and then you can eat the wheat berries, right? I've never had to do that, so if you've ever done that, fine. If I got to go to the extreme of getting wheat berries, I'm in trouble because I will starve to death. But they're doing this, and they go, hey, wouldn't that be winnowing? You call that winnowing, wouldn't you? And then, yeah, that's winnowing. So they're breaking the Sabbath. All right, let's get them. Jesus, why are they breaking the Sabbath? And Jesus says, shut up. I told them they could break the Sabbath. I told them they could eat this because they're hungry, because God cares about them. So in Luke chapter 6, now you have Jesus on a different Sabbath. He walks into the synagogue, and here's a man diseased. And Jesus asks the question. And listen what he says. Is it lawful to do good or to do harm on the Sabbath to save a life or destroy it? So do you see what Jesus is trying to say here? The Sabbath is not a day. It's a frame of mind that says, am I going to do good or am I going to do evil? Am I going to do what's right or am I going to do what's wrong? Am I going to save a life or am I going to destroy it? And it doesn't matter what day it's on. Now go to John chapter 5, verses 1 through 17. All right? And I know I've paraphrased my thoughts here on these. It's not the actual scripture text. But if you go into the text in John chapter 5, verse 1 through 17, you see that this is the man at the pool of Bethesda, and he's been waiting there for years, And Jesus comes by and says, hey, do you want to get well? And he says, well, of course I want to get well, but no one will take me into the pool. And Jesus says, quit whining. Just stand up, right? And the man stands up and he's healed. I can't remember, was it 40 years? Was it 38 years? For some reason it eludes me. But he'd been there for a long time. So he stands up and now he's all excited. And Jesus says, pick up your pallet and walk. And there's some Pharisees stand by. No, it's Sabbath. You can't pick up your pallet and walk that far with a pallet. That's part of our 39 rules. You can't do that. That's work. And so what does Jesus say then? The Jews were yelling at him for this, and what does he say? My Father is working until now, and I myself am working. That flies in the face of everything that Sabbath was supposed to be about. But what is Jesus working? He's not out there plowing fields making money, you know. He's not on his laptop making money while people are thinking about making money, you know, or people are sleeping and he's making money all the time, you know, 7 days a week. He's always making money. You know, he's not working for his own benefit. What's he doing? He's healing a man who's been sick for years. And the Pharisees probably walked by just about every day and saw him laying there and never did a thing for him. And so what's the Father doing? The Father's seated on his throne. He's looking down. He's adoring everything. He's holding it all together, and he's working. But how is he working? He's loving people. He's bringing them out of bondage. He's healing them from disease. He's doing good to them. How do you live in the Sabbath? Just start doing good. 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. Start doing good. That's how you live in the Sabbath. God was breathing life into these people. Matthew 12, verse 7, it says at the end there, Brandon read this morning, same story, but at the end, Matthew adds that Jesus said to the Pharisees, listen, if you knew what I meant by this, why don't you go try to find out what this means? I desire compassion and not sacrifice. God would rather you not keep the law of the Sabbath as opposed to helping somebody and doing good. If it meant you had to stop it. Matter of fact, Jesus told the Pharisees one time, he said, if you had a donkey that was in a ditch and it was going to cost you money and it was a Sabbath, you'd bring that donkey out, wouldn't you? But yet you can't see that you have to do good to somebody who has a disease. You can them even though it's a Sabbath. Here's what's really strange is in this story in Luke, they're yelling because they're harvesting and they're winnowing, and they're yelling about that. But then when you get to the end of that text in verse 11, and he heals that person on the Sabbath, it's okay for them, though, to decide how they're going to kill Jesus on the Sabbath. So if you're hungry, you can't pick and winnow, but you can definitely have a conversation or a board meeting about how you're going to kill this guy who's causing problems on the Sabbath. Don't do any work, but you can definitely discuss how to murder someone on the Sabbath. That's a good idea. That's how messed up this was. And that's why anybody that holds to this rigid idea of Sabbath misses the point. You miss the point. This is about trusting that God is in control of everything. And now I want to live in this Sabbath. And how do I live in it? Well, God's in control, so I can do good. I can always do good. And as I do good, I'm living in the Sabbath. One more scripture text. It's this one. Matthew 11, 25 through 30. Jesus says this, come to me all who are weary and heavy laden. That's every day of the week, not just Sunday. And I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me. For I am gentle and humble of heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Here's what you do. This is how you live in the Sabbath instead of for Sabbath. You learn from Jesus, and you live showing compassion and doing good to all men, and you will live in a Sabbath 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. This is what the Sabbath is. So let me close with this illustration. You get up tomorrow morning, someone in your family rubs you the wrong way. I know it won't happen at your house. It might happen at mine. Rub you the wrong way. You get out the house. You go to work, or you go to school, or you stay in the house all day. Someone rubs you the wrong way. You get a phone call, rubs you the wrong way. Here's the deal. I can live in the Sabbath by doing what? I can trust God that when those people take advantage of me or they rub me the wrong way, I can trust God that I can do exactly what he said in his word, and we'll get to this in a few weeks in the Sermon on the Mount. I can bless that person and not curse them. So my family member or someone at work has rubbed me the wrong way. They've said something to hurt me. But instead, what am I going to do? I'm going to trust that God's on his throne. He's adoring everything. He's holding it all together. Colossians chapter 1, verse 15. And in holding it all together, this is how he rests. He's working, and he's doing good. And because he's doing good, I can do good. And so I'm going to trust his word. I'm going to trust him. I'm going to rest. I'm going to live in Sabbath. I'm going to rest. I'm going to trust him that now when this person has cursed me, I'm going to bless them. And when I bless them, guess what you're doing? You're living in Sabbath. You're living in rest. Because now God is working. Not only is he working, but now he's working in you and through you and doing that goodness to other people. Does that make sense? Well, I sure hope so, because it made a lot of sense to me this week. And I have really struggled sometimes because of my upbringing trying to live for a Sabbath instead of in a Sabbath. And this has really helped me to start to break down and understand that I can live in the Sabbath. I'm supposed to be living in the Sabbath all the time. Now, if you go to Hebrews, this is just extra. If you go to Hebrews chapter 4, you find out that Jesus is the high priest who is our rest. And that's a constant rest. All right? So, with that said then, questions and comments and thoughts. And I already got hands going up, so maybe this will be good today. Yeah, Chuck. Right? And then can you say it one more time? Did everybody hear him? Oh, you can hear back there? Carol? Well, you won't have. You'd have to go sit next to Carol if you want her to hear. Even with them. Here, I'll move one of these speakers over next to Carol. All right. Can you say it one more time? Take them out to work. So he's asking us to take the yoke on us, put it on us himself. And when we do that, he has work for us to do, which is exactly what God is saying. What is our work? Our work is to do good, to love one another, and do good to others. And when we do that, and then he says, I will give you rest. We're going to rest in our work. Anybody else have a thought or question or comment? And I just realized we were running later than I thought. Like an average pastor, I said I'm going to close this up, and it took me 10 minutes to close it up. I apologize. Any other thoughts, comments, questions? Okay, Chuck, I'm going to have you come, and we're gonna experience this rest in the elements, because Christ died so that we could rest fully in him. I'm going to turn this off. listen, real quick. I don't want you to get the idea that that Sabbath had nothing to do with the day, because it did, and it still does. There are principles, there are wise principles that God has shown about rest. As a matter of fact, if you talk to people who are in horticulture, they'll tell you that it's good to let land rest. And God taught those things in the sabbatical year back in Leviticus. And it's good for you and I to have time where we rest because we run out and we run low. So there's good principles there. But what we talked about today is the concept of what Sabbath really is. And it was never a law to be followed just to be followed. It was always about the good of mankind. And so you and I are to live in that goodness and to show that goodness 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Well, one of the ways that we honor God and do good is we give back, and we talked about some of that this morning, but we give back to God through tithes and offerings. And so we'll go ahead and we'll receive those this morning, and you can stand if you want. You can stay seated, and we're going to worship Come Thou Found. Is that the song? Okay. We'll do that this morning.
And the fountain, every blessing to my heart to sing thy grace, streams of mercy, ever ceasing, not the songs of loudest praise. Teach me some melodious sonnet, sung by flaming tongues above. Praise the mountain fixed upon it, mount of thy redeeming light. Here I raise my Ebenezer, hither by thy help I come, and I hope by thy good pleasure safely to arrive at home. Jesus, show me when a stranger, wandering from the fold of God, here to rescue me from danger, in the past his blessings behind. Not to grace, how great a debtor daily I am constrained to be. Let thy goodness, like a fetter, bind my wandering heart to thee. Let your do what I feel it, let your evil God I love. Here's my heart, oh, take and seal it from thy cross above. Above all else, I adore your name. Above all else, to my heart to sing your praise. Above all else, I adore your name. Above all else, to my heart to sing your praise. Above all else, I adore your name. Above all else, to my heart to sing your praise. Above all else, I adore your name. Above all else, to my heart to sing your praise. Oh, that day when free from sinning, I shall see thy
Lord, we thank you for your mercy and your grace. We thank you that you rested. We thank you that you are refreshed, that you hold things together, and that we can trust you. Help us to do that this week. Help us to learn from you, and then just trust that if we do what you've asked us to do, you'll control everything. You'll take care of it all. No matter what that looks like in our life, even if we think we're being done wrong, even if we think this is, God, this is not what I expected. Help us to remember that you're holding it together. We can trust you. Help us to live in a Sabbath all the time. Thank you for your goodness and your mercy. In Christ's name, I pray. Amen. All right, well, you guys have a great week, and we love you.
On that day when faith and standing, I shall see thy lovely face. Then